Kia ora koutou. Welcome to the session on perspective on decolonization and belonging, where we'll explore decolonization, dismantle of system of power, reimagine belonging, relationship, and responsibility in Aotearoa and beyond. Ko Kautan Toku Ingoa. I'm a Malaysian Chinese Te Tiriti based at Kaikōrerō, Hamilton. Before we start the session and hear from our amazing speaker, we'll just begin with a karakati matanga and housekeeping rules. Um, Whakatakati hou ki te uru, whakatakati hou ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, ti hei mauri ora. So this is our community code, which all of you would have been familiar with. You've been following us for the last 2 days. So make sure that we remain curious, open and respectful. We are allowed to make generous assumptions, remain confidentiality about what has been shared through the chat today. One person, one mic. We speak from our own experience. No one knows everything, but together as collective, we can know a lot. We make space, take space, and we can't be articulate all the time. And make sure to not take yourself too seriously as we learn from others. Next slide, please. So there's a closed caption and some transcript that you can turn on while listening to our speakers today. And I believe the moderator has shared a link about accessibility information. Thank you. Yeah, and I want to thank our partners for supporting our events as well. We have got a lot of partners for Fertility-Based Future this year that you can find out from our website. Just a reminder that you're welcome to interact with each other using the chat, ask questions using the Q&A functions. While we like to take as many questions as we can, we may be restricted by the limited amount of time that we have. We have our wonderful moderators today, Romy and Tanya at the backstage, who make sure the session goes smoothly. Thank you for that. And let's get on to introducing our speakers today. First off, we have Pancha, who shares similar whakapapa as me. Pancha is born in Malaysia and now Aotearoa, New Zealand home, and has been doing that since 32 years ago. His current role is National President of Multicultural New Zealand, and his role reflects his passion and commitment to achieving better settlement outcomes for migrants. He was awarded the Queen's Service Medal in 2010 and the New Zealand Order of Merit last year for his community work for immigrants. Leka Skipwith, whakapapa to Tuhorangi, and is a prominent kaitiaki spokesperson for Rotokakahi Board of Control. He's a passionate advocate for Indigenous land right and environmental protections. In early 2024, Leka led peaceful protests and a hikoi to oppose a section of Rotorua Lake Council Tarawera sewerage scheme. His advocacy also extended into legal avenues. Last but not least, my friend Ara Alam-Simmons has British Bangladeshi whakapapa and is an anti-racism educator, writer, facilitator, and decolonial scholar. Ara is part of the WIRO Working to End Racial Oppression research program and recently submitted her PhD thesis that explores South Asian Maori solidarities with an emphasis on the experience of women. Ara is the founder of a creative community space called Manawaka Ao. Through art, scholarship, and community weaving, Ara, along with others, curate creative spaces that honor Indigenous knowledge system. So entering our kokpapa today, I want to begin by acknowledging that the language of decolonization has largely been theorized at academic level, but yet at the same time, we know that decolonization as a tool has stemmed from community, in which all of our three speakers today are embedded within. We also know that decolonization is deeply tied to historical power structures that remain unresolved, as we can see in the ongoing conflicts overseas. We heard from Leon Musavi yesterday, who spoke about decolonization as dismantling double standards, where some people are treated as less valuable and the need to find ways to cherish all civilians. We can also see that people globally are increasingly using decolonization to make sense of their justice, identity, and resistance. So with that, let's hear from our panelists today. I'll start with Pancha. Do you want to introduce your mahi and yourself and what draws you to this conversation?
Thank you so much, Carl. Inga iwi, inga reo, inga karanga maha e mihi atu nei kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Pancha Narayanan toku ingoa, and thank you for having me today. I've been a volunteer with immigrants in New Zealand for many, many years, probably 30 plus years. And what draws me to this conversation is largely a deep commitment to a sense of belonging, wanting to belong. And that's everything. That's every immigrant with the many things that they have in their minds. Wanting to belong is key, right? And in wanting to belong, New Zealand, because of Te Tiriti, has given us a serious opportunity to look at an integration model as opposed to an assimilation model. So we can be ourselves. And that energizes me. And those kind of values that we have brings me into the space. I also come from a family where fourth generation Malaysians, my ancestors come from the south of India. And having lived with parents who are very closely connected to their homelands, I could understand my father's desire to want to belong in Malaysia. Right, so those kind of things become natural for me in New Zealand. For me, this conversation of decolonization is not about separating ourselves from just the colonial past. It is more about finding our own identity through the disruptions that have intergenerational disruptions that have happened. That's a hard task, and that cannot be achieved by reflecting on our own. It's got to be a reflection with others in our midst as well. So this gives me the forum. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and also in the work in the community as well. I'll pause here, Kyle. Back to you.
Talking about reflection with others. Leka, do you have anything a lot to add alongside the reflection? Yeah, speaking to what draws you in the conversation as well.
Ka pai. Firstly, anei te mihi, kia koutou te whānau whakatūwhere toko puare e tēnei wāhi mai ki te kōrero tia, ki tēnei kaupapa hira i te rānei. Yeah, I think tira pē te mea tuatahi, kia nei ka kōrero tia ki roa ki tōku nei kōaiau. And that's a very pivotal part for me. So ko te whatanui Leka tāmalo Skipwith ahau ko ngauri, well, ki te tahi ki tōku nei whatukura, te arawa whānui, Ngāti Kahungu ki Wairarapa, Kaitahu Waitaha Ngāpui, ki te tahi ki tōku Māreikura, te kingitanga o tonga, Ngāti Haua, ara Ngāpui. So what draws me into this, where we are in this current space here, whānau, is an expectation of responsibility. See, for me personally, I actually don't sit in these spaces to just talk. I sit here because of who I come from and what I stand for. You know, being Māori, being tangata takitaki ki tēnei whenua, and tangata moana, I've grown up seeing both the beauty of our people, of our culture, and the weight our communities carry because of colonization. And being part of that system that's currently in place that oppresses not only tangata takitaki, not only Indigenous, but other minority communities, it's an expectation for me to be responsible to help look at decolonization and re-indigenization at the same time. You can't have one without the other. And for me, my mahi, yep, it's been with the protection of our tupuna roto. So roto kākahi is our ancestral lake that has provided not only for me, but for my ancestors. So when we look at our pepeha, we look at what we belong to and what has provided for us. And so roto kākahi has only been part of the mahi that I've been involved with. It's initially looking at trying to bring together our communities and to start looking and having those conversations, those strong conversations around how can we protect, how can we start decolonizing and re-indigenizing ourselves. Because protecting what's sacred and standing where we're meant to stand as uri of this whenua, because I'm going to speak from the lens of someone that is tangata whenua, someone that's tangata taketake. These conversations matter because they're not theory to me. We're living it. This is our lived reality, and it's about the future of our uri, of the posterity that is to come. So that's the reason why I'm here, hopefully to help galvanize and bring us all together. Kia ora.
What a
Kia
great
ora.
exploration. Yeah, I'll pass on to Ara now.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum and kia ora koutou. Yeah, it's great to be on this panel with fellow panelists, and I am a British-born Bangladeshi. And something that draws me to this conversation is firstly, both as Maori and Tauiwi of colour, we don't have the opportunities to have these conversations together because there's always whiteness in the way of our conversations. So to be able to have these conversations directly is really helpful and beneficial, very much to understand that we share the same colonizer. We share the same colonizer. And what do I mean about that? I mean that, the colonizers that came to Aotearoa had already perfected their colonizing skills on India. Their skills of extraction, their skills of inhumanity, their skills of starvation. So basically, ethnically, I am Bengali. So what the British did in India, there was a starving of 10 million people in India in 1943, the Bengal famine. Some of my ancestors were caught up in that. They were also involved in the carving up of India through a number of partitions. And most notable to me and my people was a partition of 1947. And then later on, through genocide, we had the liberation of what became known as Bangladesh in 1971. And so to be able to be in this space, to have this conversation, and I am also very practical in the response. A conversation is not worth having if there's no kind of action in terms of beyond the moral claims, saying we are for Māori, we support Māori. I'm really interested in knowing what that means in action. I'm also interested in this conversation because being part of a South Asian diaspora, so I am a settler of colour on this whenua, and our communities do not understand that we are settlers of colour here. We don't benefit in the same way that Pākehā do because those systems weren't meant for us, but we cannot have these conversations within our South Asian communities, and we are significant because we are becoming a really big part of the population in Aotearoa. I'm also interested in conversation because as Māori and Tauiwi, we are held in a tension together. So when you were talking, Leka, around the dispossession of your people and the reclaiming of land in that very brief introduction, what I've also really come to understand that while Māori are being dispossessed on their own land here, migrant communities' role here also, we are a disposable workforce. We are used as a buffer and pitted against Māori here. And we are also, our skills exploited, our labour's exploited. And we need to refuse that. So that's what I'm part of this conversation for, in the actionable ways that we might be able to refuse. And one of the other interesting things I'm interested in is refusing belonging as defined by settler colonialism on this land. I am interested in in unbelonging to the state, but finding a way of belonging in relationship with Māori, but that can only happen with direct communication and understanding, where we are able to build alternative ways of being together.
I can see we have we'll be able to cover a wide range of perspective with the speaker coming in and sharing such important aspiration about what this conversation is gonna bring to the audience. Before we go into, I guess, the idea of decolonization, maybe just go back a little bit about how does colonization and coloniality look like in your life, and how has that affected yourself, your whānau, your hapu, and your community. Should we start with Pancha again?
Thank you. This is really very nice with Leka and Ara. This is the collective reflection. It resonates with me, every word that they say, and how things are common. I'd like to start with a quote from a great Taniwha, Sir Mark Solomon, who says, and statistics-wise, right, Pacific people, Maori, Asians, and other ethnicities put together, we make up 45% of New Zealand. In another 5 years, the numbers will be different. We could be even more than 50%. And that doesn't simply mean, decolonization doesn't simply mean displacing the values that this country has had. It is about, within that, finding, sharing Ara's view in terms of unbelonging and then belonging. The Te Tiriti that I have learned says to me that we find our belonging, we find our turanga waiwai through Te Tiriti. And to me, in the way how it has impacted on me personally, right? Come into this country and love the nuclear-free policy. One of the key things that encouraged me to stay behind. But as I started my journey in New Zealand, I found the hegemony. I found that there was began to understand really what white supremacy was. And I could see supremacy in the countries that many of us come from as well. So independence from a colonial master doesn't necessarily mean that we are decolonized, right? The first thing is to change. If you want to see the change out there, Mahatma Gandhi says, see the change within yourself first. And one of the things, I used to love wearing ties, right? Over time, I felt that the first thing I did was not wanting to wear a tie. And then in wanting to do that, I realized that I can't be simply wearing a collared shirt and not wear a tie. So the first thing I did was to go look for shirts without collars, right? Where I didn't need to insult someone by wearing a collar and not a tie. I think things have changed. But today, my attire, quite a lot of that, I do not have a collar. So nobody can say, why aren't you wearing a tie? These are the kinds of changes. And I see in the community as well, right? I want to share an example that has been rather profound to me, right? Recent times, right? In terms of the ram raids, right? The ram raids were happening. And what were we seeing? We were seeing bottle stores being broken into, right? And bottle stores in lower socioeconomic environments being broken into. Immediately, our response is to incarcerate the offenders or try to catch the offenders, right? But I think there's a socioeconomic element to it that we need to seriously consider And that is the kind of thing that I think decolonization needs to bring. It is not what we are doing is what the colonizers did. The colonizers came in, took over the country by giving them alcohol, giving blankets, giving them guns, right? And we are still doing the same. It's just that the color of the people doing it has changed, right? And I don't think that is decolonization, right? That is just a different color doing the same thing that the colonizers did, right? And those are the kinds of things that bring into the work that we do at Multicultural New Zealand. It not only allows us to speak out and say, hang on a minute, we have to look at the intergenerational deprivation that colonization has caused. That's one. Second, our immigration policy needs to bring in people into the country who don't necessarily fill the gap of what the colonizers stopped doing, but rather to do new things, do different things, bring their ancestors along to the country and make this country a flourishing country so that our children, our grandchildren get back the identity that was lost, that was erased, that was reshaped, right? Through a policy. We talk about assimilation. The colonizers came into the country and they made us look and do things like what they did in their homelands. Right? Breaking away from that needs collective reflection. And it's founded on a cohesive society as well. So I think that one of the things that the legacy of this, we need to question the legacy. We need to do it within the framework of Te Tiriti. And I think that therein lies the future, the things that we hand over. It's not, in my view, it won't happen in one generation. It's intergenerational. But what this generation does for the next generation needs to be putting the path forward and say, this is the way. The colonizers made pathways through guns, machetes, blankets, and alcohol. We make pathways through aroha, whakapapa, whanaungatanga, tikanga, and kōrero awhi, right? And that is what we do as Horahiho in Multicultural New Zealand. Right? Back to you, Kyle.
Yeah, I'll pass it to you, Leka. Do you want to add on to the kōrero or talk about your context?
I kind of want to just add on to what Matua Pancha just spoken to. What for me, what does colonization? I think it's a two-part question. What do colonization and was it coloniality? What does it look like? And I think Matua Pancha, he brought up some really good whakaaro there in the way with all our whānau, our taiwiwi whānau, what their connections are to, through coming to Aotearoas, and that hononga, that hononga is actually under Te Tiriti. And that gives our taiwiwi whānau the ability to live and thrive together collectively. And I think Matua Pancha had also spoken to the fact that what colonization is still doing, because let's make no mistake here, whānau, colonization hasn't ended. It's just changed its form. It's reshaped itself. And for me, it looks like systems that are still in place and are continually being perpetuated, regardless of the color of the person that's doing it. And so that's people that are still making decisions over whenua, over whānau, over whakapapa, and how oppressive those decisions are affecting everyone. So for me, when I'm looking at it from let's take it out and away from Aotearoa, as someone that is Tongan, I have Tongan toto, whakapapa. Colonization is still continually being perpetuated on a lot of our tangata moana whānau in a way where some of our mātauranga was lost due to the weaponization of Christianity. So if anyone has read into the things of like doctrine of discovery and how religion was weaponized and forced my Tongan whānau have a lot of our whakapapa and our mātauranga tukuiho lost, because now what we connect to, what makes our connections to the whenua is through, not in a bad way, but a lot of our ancient practices have now been lost. And so that's colonization that is still being perpetuated now, because a lot of the practices that we see with tangata whenua here in Aotearoa, a lot of them have been lost. A lot of that mātauranga, that knowledge and those practices have actually been lost. So that's colonization being perpetuated outside of Aotearoa, within Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, within the Pacific. Now, if I bring it back down here into Aotearoa, it looks like our people struggling in spaces where we've never meant to be disconnected from. So Matua Pancha also talked into the ram raids and a lot of the rangatahi that are actually being involved in these things. A lot of it is due to colonization. You see, I work with these rangatahi. I work with many of them within the spaces of Wani Waititi Marae. I run programs where I'm able to start making that hononga for them back to their whakapapa, back to who they are, because a lot of them have lost that sense of identity. And this is just barely scratching the surface of what colonization has done and continues to do to Indigenous people. And for me, coloniality is a deeper layer. Like, it's the mindset that normalizes all of that and justifies it. Where our knowledge, our mātauranga gets pushed to the side, and Western systems, patriarchal Westminster systems or this capitalist system are seen as the default. And when I look at that in the perspective of, Māori, tangata whenua, a lot of us still being caught up in the utilization of PSGEs and iwi runanga, that is still continually perpetuating this colonizer's system. And so I've seen that impact my whānau directly. The disconnection that's happened not only to my whānau, but to many Māori throughout Aotearoa. The hurt, the mamai, but also the strength that's carried us through. Because that's what's shaped me. Not just to call it out, but to stand up and do something about it. And that can be done through kaupapa Māori, through, decolonization, but re-indigenization as well. And through our own ways. And like Matua Pancha actually talked into, is actually our practices. What are our cultural practices, and leaning into that. And starting to actually not do performative things for our culture, but actually living it. But that's my whakaaro on this kaupapa.
Yeah.
Kia ora. And I'll carry on from that. So when I think about colonization and coloniality, I also think about the this intersection of race, class, and power. So colonization is very much about power. And then when I'm thinking about your example, Pancha, that you raised about the bottle shops, what happens, and this again is the precarity of migrant communities, and I'm kind of going to focus on the South Asian diaspora here, is that when we come to this country, what happens too, because the precarity of our living conditions, our notions of wanting to belong to a place, we keep hold of class positions we may have had in our home country, also caste positions. So caste supremacy is quite a big thing within the South Asian diaspora, and what colonization has done to caste supremacy is that really accentuate it and turn it up. So what caste supremacy is that through social location of your birth, some people are better than others. There is this racial hierarchy of people. And so as a Bangladeshi within that pecking order, for example, we're the lowest of the low within that pecking order. And when you bring faith into that, So we see this play out within the community, and it interacts with the decisions that people also make within the community, thinking this group of people are better than another group of people. We also know how decolonization, the language of decolonization, is completely weaponized. We see that currently in the ideologies also again coming out of India, for example. And I say this because in terms of what colonization has done to my own family and generations of people, we've had shifting identities. First of all, we were Bengalis, then we were Indians, then we became Pakistanis, and then we became Bangladeshis. So what colonization was also doing was defining who we were as people completely. And so the other thing I want to kind of also bring into this conversation, what we don't talk about in this in Aotearoa, but I can kind of see it coming up now, is the class conversation. So a lot of Māori whānau, working class. We also have working class sections of our migrant communities. And so when we start talking and going into these spaces, we can perhaps also understand why people are selling alcohol in these spaces, not to explain it away, but to understand that this is connected to a far bigger conversation of how colonization continues to weave its magic here. And in that weaving, co-ops us from migrant communities, Tauiwi of color, however you want to describe it, into the systems of whiteness and white supremacy. And we see it pays, because people are making money out of this and benefiting on the backs of stolen land. This is what's happening. And so when I think about responsibility as Tauiwi and thinking practically about this, I think about this idea of refusal. How can we refuse? And how can we practically refuse? And so refusal means, not being divided from Maori on Maori land, which I believe we are being divided. Refuse to be pitted against Maori. So that's an example of the bottle shops. That is a very clear example. Also being able to understand our positionality. So and our social location. So understanding our own class positions and also understanding our positionality, because not until we understand our positionality can we understand our relationship with Māori. So both Pancha and I, in terms of our ancestors, would have been Indian, but both Pancha and I would have completely different positionalities. And that means we would relate differently when we're engaging with Māori. So these are the really helpful things to understand, because what happens is it reveals the power dynamic. And the reason why I choose to describe myself as Tauiwi and not Tangata Tiriti is because Tangata Tiriti hides the power dynamic, you know? So we need to be talking about power in relationships more, I think, and also, perhaps engage in a multiculturalism that doesn't flatten and homogenize all the different communities. So again, that is a conversation that would be, yeah, great to have with Māori. So I'll give you another practical example of that, because recently what's happened, and this is a lack of understanding of multiculturalism and our communities, is that we commission reports about state-funded money to commission reports that demonstrate the contribution of ethnic communities to the financial, the financial contributions they're making to Aotearoa. Now that is fine and wonderful, but when you have commission reports that also within them state Māori as just another ethnic group, that is hugely problematic. And that report goes to the ministries, it goes to the state, it goes to various places. So this is why also these conversations need, we need to have them, because there are lots of counter narratives going on. And I'll bring this in, this is the gap that the coalition government and ACT exploit in terms of pitting us against each other. I may have gone off topic slightly there, Kyle.
That's all good. I think it all ties to our next question. But before that, I just want to remind the audience to leave your partai in the Q&A chat function, because I can see a lot of amazing kōrero happening at the chat, but not at the Q&A. So make sure you direct your question at the Q&A so that I could ask our amazing speakers today. And following on from that, kōrero, I think it has been alluded that Te Tiriti Waitangi may offer a path to decolonisation and address the issue that Leka was talking about, the mamai caused by colonization and imbalance of power. So what does it mean to consider responsibility to Te Tiriti Waitangi in your practice and your community applications? Pancha?
Thank you, Carl. Lovely kōrero from Brother Leka and Sister Ara. Really thoroughly enjoying it myself. Makes me think. I was at a conference several years ago at Hobart in Australia, and when I was speaking, it was very natural for me to acknowledge the First Nation people first before I acknowledged anyone else. And to some extent, I was surprised that the audience was taken by surprise that here we are acknowledging the First Nation people first, and not the minister or not the others. And they say, how do you relate to get so close to tangata whenua, your native people? And how does your treaty help? I couldn't give an answer. My answer was just plain. I said, I don't worry about the treaty, right? I can be a builder. I studied buildings, but I don't carry my books around every time I go. I could be an engineer, I could be a doctor, but I don't carry my books around every time. I know it by heart, right? And that's what the treaty is as well. So I say, the way is not just through by reading the text of the treaty, but it is about having 100 cups of tea with the native people, right? And let each cup of tea that you have with them be have a conversation within it, right? And the simple thing about the treaty is about protection, participation, and partnership. And this is universal, right? And within that, religious freedom. But you don't have to carry the treaty all the time and refer back to the treaty. And every citizen, everyone living in New Zealand or coming into New Zealand needs to understand that these are the fundamental values, right? Māori don't see us as individuals. Pākehā system sees us as individuals. Māori see us as a people. They look at our ancestors behind us, right? And when we come into this space, we need to spiritually understand that our ancestors come along with us as well. And that mana that we get, and that mana needs to be part of what we carry in our search for turanga waiwai, our belonging. Not the citizenship certificates that we get from the colonial settlers, right? So coming back, drawing back into the decolonisation conversation, right? I have one thing to ask the audience, right? I just want to put a question out there. How can we flourish because of our isolation? Right? Geographical isolation. Right? And therein lies finding Turanga. Why? Therein lies Te Tiriti, therein lies working with the natives, right? To make this a flourishing society, right? The treaty is a historical document which has not been honored fully, agreed, right? But going forward, we need to move from a position of grievance to forgiveness to commemoration and celebration. The question is, how do we go that? How do we take that journey to make sure the past wrongs are set right, appropriate apologies are made, appropriate reparations are made, right? We want to give our children a flourishing society. We want to hand our mokopuna the opportunity to enjoy their identity. And their identity may not be the identity that I bring along. Their identity needs to be rooted in New Zealand, right? And I think that reflection on Te Tiriti as a document may not be as important as reflecting on Te Tiriti from the folklores that people say in the communities, talking to mana whenua, listening to the stories, right? We are not, Maoridom is not one Maoridom. It's made out of what I understand of 96 nations, right? And each one an authority, all right? So the thing is that if we looked at the document alone, we are subjected to Pākehā interpretations and having to either work with it, refute it, or reject it. But once you go into folklores, right, you cannot, you will, because of our cultures, because of our ancestries, right? The relationship that is built from listening to story from Maori, from the regions, right, is implicit and intensive. So in terms of the work that we do, Horahiho, pathway to a treaty-based multicultural Aotearoa, it is just this 100 cups of tea, right? And the thing is, in terms of, and today we have Race Relations Day recently, 21st, and this is Race Relations Week, right? This time, the Federation has worked with the Human Rights Commission to come up with the phrase, the slogan for this year. It is listening to understand. Right? I'll park my kōrero here for now and take it on from there. I can pass it on to Leka. Over to you, Leka.
Kia ora matua. Oh man, you brought up some good whakaaro in your kōrero, matua Pancha. And how do I follow on from that? Oh, ki tōki nei whakaaro, ko ki te pātai, tērā te pātai hira. You know, what does it mean to consider responsibility to te tiriti? And ki tōki nei whakaaro, tērā pia te oro kōhanga, the source or the origin of my whakaaro comes back to responsibility anō. So to me, responsibility to te tiriti is to whakamana, to honour the balance of authority that was always intended. Ki tōki nei whakaaro, ko ki te wāhi e nai nei e ke. So the way that I'm currently seeing the current state of affairs within our country, I want the future that was promised under Te Tiriti and he whakapūtanga, not the one we currently have. Because just acknowledging it and not actually living it is for me, is performative, it's tokenistic. As a Māori, kia ne ka tū ki runga ki tōki nei whenua, e āraitanga o tēnei whenua. So as I stand as a descendant of the many waters and the whenua that has provided and sheltered and cared for my people, my expectation is that we want the future that was promised. We want the now that was promised under those guiding documents that were set to help give a place for our tauiwi to live and thrive. and for us to continue our rangatiratanga. And the way that I see that is continuing to give the ability over, and we shouldn't even be giving it. It's actually, it's conflicting with the mahi that I've been doing, especially around Roto Kākahi. But the way that I see it done peacefully is through a mātiki mai lens. And for me, it's clear. We have the rangatiratanga sphere, where we, as tangata whenua, have the ability to make decisions for the whenua, for our whakapapa, for our people. We can still continue to have that authority to be able to make those decisions freely. And then you have the kāwanatanga sphere, where you have the crown that's able to help do that for our tauiwi whānau. And then you have a relational sphere. And that's where both the rangatiratanga sphere and the kāwana sphere can actually meet together as equals. Right now, there's a power imbalance. E kore mo te paure watanga I tēnei rā. There's no balance. There's no harmony there. And that's why you see things like what's happened in Rotorua, in Te Kaikōrerō, Aotearoa Parau, where you're having mana whenua who were either never consulted, brought in as a last-minute tokenistic, sign, or really just to come in and do a karakia. That's not honouring Te Tiriti whānau. And we have to be very clear about that. And I might sound radical, painua. Heoi, that's the way that I see forward in honouring Te Tiriti. It still gives mana to us as tangata whenua, as people from this whenua, and also uplifts and helps our tauiwi whānau as well. Because when you have a rangatiratanga sphere and you have Māori governing themselves, making the ability to make decisions on their own, if anyone's actually been on a marae, what is your experience on a marae? You have mana whenua, you have the haukainga that are welcoming you on with songs and talking to you about the whakapapa and what that connection is. So our responsibility not only is just to that marae, it's actually to manuhiri, it's actually to the tauiwi, but we look at it on a wider scale here. And currently we don't have that. We don't have that. And so for me, yeah, it looks like hapu, whānau, iwi, basically having decision-making power. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having situations like Roto Kākahi, like up in Te Taitokero. And it's shifting away from consultation. It's actually putting the decision-making power back to mana whenua as to what's good for te taiao, as to what's good for the whakapapa. Because who better to ask for clarity and guidance around that environment for that specific area than people that have lived there for hundreds to thousands of years. Because we've had to have a symbiotic relationship with that specific whenua. But we don't have that. We get brought in as a last minute thing. Or we don't even get brought in at all. So for me, to answer this question, yeah, it's a mātiki mai sphere. It's honouring what Te Tiriti and he whakaputanga has actually promised us. Hopefully that answers the question, whānau.
Yeah.
Kia ora. Thanks. And thanks, Leka, for the whittle, the challenge, how do we do things beyond the performative and the moral claims? And so I am in community in terms of a creative community space that I am part of, Manawaka Ao. And one of the things is that, South Asians or South Asian diaspora ethnic communities, we're considered as passive bodies, not political bodies. So in terms of a call to action, we can basically engage in in recognizing ourselves as being political bodies. And I know we have done a couple of things in community. So when the Treaty Principles Bill was coming up, we kind of organized and kind of got folks together in community to kind of write against that bill as an action. And we also discovered within the Tauiwi communities, people are very reluctant. You know, we didn't have as many people as we wanted to. And that's part of, we're used to being in a box, you know, and so we need to get out of the box. And the way of getting out of the box is to, you know, politically engage. The other thing too is I understand the idea. We have these conversations and we understand and listen, but if we don't do anything, if we're just engaging with our head but not with our heart and our hands, it does not translate. So we're really interested in what does it involve? What do we need to do to involve our hands to do the work? And part of that work for us has been how do we unlearn colonized mindsets? So the reason that we in community, we have conversations about if we're trying to connect to the history of this land, but we don't know the history of where we have come from in our own lands, it is quite a disconnect. So we know of people who have been on the marae, and it's just been an intellectual endeavor, and they've not really understood what has gone on. And we know that being responsible to Te Tiriti, you don't have to intellectually understand. You don't have to intellectually go to a Te Tiriti workshop. You don't have to go to a marae. Those things are helpful and they're rich and valuable, but it's being with people in community and understanding the materiality of other people's lives too. So one of the things that we also do is how do we be in places and make in places? So we do a lot of making, we do a lot of creative arts, but they are to hold the conversations that sit around it in terms of being able to understand the realities of each other's lives and worlds, because that's where we have found engagement, but that's in terms of doing things, but that's where we have also found that we have also been able to acknowledge that we've got colonized mindset, and we have also at times engaged with whiteness and with the system and have been assimilated in the system. And that's not shame, that's actually speaking truth. So when you were speaking Leka, saying you're a bit radical, all you were doing was speaking truth.
Papa is speaking truth. I love that as a quote. We've got a few partai, but there's one that I think it's particularly relevant to what we have been discussed, and either of you can choose to take it. So the partai is about how capitalism and capitalist way of thinking is a barrier for people to understand Tiliti. And there's an example given by Tangata Fino about observing Tauiwi coming to Aotearoa to study and start their businesses without having understanding of Tiliti history and Te Ao Maori. And that's very concerning, obviously. So what are some of the practical ways that you can think of to, I guess, bridge that gap and enhance conscientizations?
I'm happy
Yeah.
to chip in if
Sure.
so. One of the things, just quickly, what we do, so we see this quite a lot in the community, just this disconnect and the idea that people are trying to make profits also off stolen land, just that complete disconnect there. So one of the things that we try to do, so we apply for funding to do our arts making, but we try and as much as possible create a system of care that also involves money. So in terms of and we are very obvious and articulate why we are doing the things that we are doing. In terms of any money that we get, we get in local artists, we get in local people, and they're often working class communities. So this is where we kind of regenerate and say, look, this is a bit of an economy. It's not much of economy. We're talking about beans here because that's all we get access to, but we do whatever we can with whatever we have. And we also talk about this idea of, we have choices to make. We can choose to, we can choose not to. We all have access to those choices, and we can choose where we also wish to put our money and whose goods we buy, and basically to divest from the capitalist system, the settler colonial system in Aotearoa. So we talk about that in community. And we see some of that happening only in small ways because, you know, um, people do not, people or the state is not interested in funding things that aren't culture, celebration, eating ethnic foods. So yeah.
If I can just share this, it's very difficult, when the question in terms of capitalism, right? There's so many economic definitions, and the way in the community is to find a simple compass that can help us navigate through this. So, examples, right? Starting a business or what. Let me shift it a little bit and show you an example, and anonymize it a little bit. There was a religious group that wanted to establish a place of worship, right? And the initial conversations, and I had been with a conversation with a very senior Maori elder who at one point was really upset with that immigrants were coming in and were just opening up things, and Maori was struggling to understand, deal, and even and look forward to see what is happening. With that conversation in the back of my mind, when I was approached about wanting to buy a piece of land to build a place of worship, my suggestion to that group was if they, and I was happy to help them, that they would sit down with tangata whenua, mana whenua, and have a conversation. Right? And that conversation, they talked about their children, they talked about values, and it brought up so many things, like how similar the cultures were, how similar the spiritual aspirations were, right? And you fast forward 5-6 years, right? Now, that place of worship not only has the blessings of tangata whenua, but it has a strong relationship with the marae. During COVID-19, right, the place of worship cooked the food and dropped it off at the marae, and the marae distributed the food to the community. People came and picked up the food, right? Now, this is communal, right? At the same time, respecting each other's independence, right? Each other's values and cultures, right? But when it comes to a kaupapa, a purpose during COVID, right? These were connected, right? And that to me is an example in terms of whatever, that example, I think you can actually use it to a business or a school or a language class, whatever, right? And that is being, in my view, a New Zealander, right? And working within the realms of Te Tiriti, right? There's nothing in law that says you have to go and talk to tangata whenua or mana whenua to set up a place of worship. If you comply with the bylaws of the district council or city council, right, and that everything is by the law, then you're okay. But I think that this cannot be seen, what I've just shared with you cannot be seen as an additional step, right, that people take their own initiative to do it. I think it's got to be an integral part of establishments, an integral part of what we do in New Zealand, integral part of what we do as New Zealanders, right? So the thing is that reshapes capitalism or capitalistic type approaches in New Zealand, in my view.
Yeah. Thank you, Pancha. We're running out of time, but I'll probably give Leka to have 30 seconds to add any final pakaro.
On that question, I actually felt like I was going to go quite deep on that one, but quickly, I guess the easiest thing that I could say, the Māori Kura Ara had actually spoken into it quite well, is starting that, looking at how you can work together locally, starting within that sphere, I guess, or within that space, is working locally, supporting locally. I guess when it comes to tangata whenua, look, there's a lot of, you will get resistance. You will get resistance if you're coming in with the intention to build on whenua that could have some history and some whakapapa to it. And so understanding that if you're coming in to take part within the capitalist system and build a business on whenua that's within a certain area of different mana whenua, which it will be, my I guess expectation of those people that are coming through to do that is to actually speak first to mana whenua. Always include mana whenua into your kōrero. That way they can help guide you to be safe and make decisions that will keep you safe for whatever reason. It's easier for me to go into this a bit longer, but I know we've got a short amount of time, so I don't mind.
Yeah, perhaps you can open a podcast channel and share that perspective, Leka. Thank you again to all our amazing speakers today. We explore such a wide range of topics, talking about disrupting hegemony, rethinking notions of belonging, with a focus of how change must begin with ourselves. And I believe that's Ara's PhD topic, so I'll read that when that's out. And we talk about a range of social issues, right? From migration, lack of meaningful partnership with Maori, call for value-based movement, and I know that's Leka's passion, Matike Mai, that moving forward. Ara talk about magic of whiteness as an operating system, Pancha calling for us to search for our Turanga Waiwai, and finally Kōrero to us to be more radical in our thinking and actions. So thank you again to all speakers. He tatou karakia whakamutanga, unuhia ki te uru tapunui, kia wātia ka mama te ngāko, te tinana, te roairua I ara takata, koia rā e raongo, whakairea ake ki runga, kia tina huie tai kie. Thank you again for everyone for joining us.